What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Flailing Forward podcast. I am your host, Dustin Seiler, and this is the podcast where we talk to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anybody else out there doing the work. They may be flailing along the way, there may be some hard times, but they're moving forward and progressing along the journey. And today we are joined by Elliot Whitmer. Elliot is a wonderful business owner and entrepreneur, but he has 30 plus years in leading complex projects, building businesses in federal IT contracting and software. He has now moved into business coaching with Pinnacle. He is a wealth of knowledge and has a lot of expertise in not only leading, but developing teams, managing teams, and in growth strategies. So we are super glad to be joined by Elliot. Elliot, thanks for being here today, man.
Dustin, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. So you kind of started off, you've done decades of work in federal contracting, IT, software, etc. How did you get involved or what excited you about that field?
Well, I wouldn't say anything excited me about it. At the time that I got into it, what excited me was that it was a job and it was an opportunity for them to get a salary coming out of college.
Hmm.
At the time in the early 90s, there was not a lot of jobs out on the market.
Yeah.
So to get one coming straight out of college was good. I originally started my career with EDS, the old Ross Perot company.
Okay.
A fantastic company. Learned a ton there and just kind of continued to grind my way through. I love the title of your podcast, Flailing Forward, because literally I feel like my entire career that was exactly what I did. Um, but the other thing that I feel like I did in my entire career is I felt like I did what was expected,
Hmm.
which is go to college, get your degree, come out, get your job, get your salary, get your 401k, buy a house,
Yeah.
and then 5 years after my wife and I got married, started a family,
Yeah.
checking all the boxes.
Yep.
And then as I look back over my career, I wish someone had stopped me in my late 20s, early 30s and said, no, this doesn't work. This
Yeah.
actually doesn't work. But no one did, and I certainly didn't. And I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going. Eventually, I was worked with just a tremendous individual that gave me a great opportunity. And at the end of the opportunity, I'd owned a number of businesses. I'd worked with other partners. I'd done lots of things, continuing to fail, continuing to learn all along that way. And then a guy called me and just he said, "Look, I need you to come help me. Got something that's not working. I need you to come help me out." So I went over there and helped him. Long story short, he had basically given me what I thought was a very, very small piece of the company. Turned out that it was a very small piece of the company, but the company was worth a lot more than I had ever envisioned.
Yeah.
And so when they originally came to me at the sale of that company and said, here's what this portion is worth, which I had zero valuation of it prior to this. Like literally, if you would have told me it was worth $500, I would have said, okay, great. I literally had no idea what any of it was worth.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth $500. And at the time, my daughters had both already graduated high school. They were in college. Their 529s were paid for. My wife and I had been saving in our 401ks. We'd been doing, like I said, all the things.
Yeah.
And they came in and after they told me what the my portion of the company was worth, they said, "Well, the company that's buying us is offering you to put some of that money back in." And I literally just said, "Well, here you go." And they came back to me and they're like, "Whoa, you shouldn't give all of it back to us. That's too risky. You should go and take this." And I go, "Look, I put my girls through school. I've got our retirement set up. We're on the right flight path for that. Like I never expected any of this money.
Yeah.
So just take it. And, I still believe in what we're doing because it was a great company and it was a great leader." And anyway, a couple of years later, that sold again. And so I compounded that opportunity. So probably the greatest thing that I ever did financially was just make that move. So while we made a lot of mistakes getting to that point, we still that set us up pretty well.
Yeah.
Not enough that we could retire, not, it wasn't ridiculous money, but here's the number one thing that shocked me coming out of that. When they came back after the second sale and told me, here's what it's worth. One, wasn't happy about how much money I was paying in taxes. Um,
That hurts. Yeah.
Two, as soon as the money hit my account, it was unbelievable how much my wife and I both just said, meh. Like
Mm.
it literally meant nothing. It
Hmm.
We felt nothing, it meant nothing. Like, so at that point, I started on a journey of this is like money is not the goal.
Yeah.
It's not, that doesn't check the box for fulfillment. It doesn't touch your heart. It doesn't even touch your brain. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, it wasn't enough money that we could retire, but it was enough for us to know that we could live comfortably, and that we could make some decisions about what we wanted to do for our career.
Yeah.
I didn't change anything in my career because I was looking for what it was that was going to touch my heart and move things forward. So fast forward that to, we started getting into real estate investing. We started making some mistakes there. I started trying to figure out how to get out of those mistakes. Came across creative finance, came across PACE,
Yeah.
uh, joined the Sub 2 community, and then quickly after that, joined the Gator community. Um, and and then really more than anything else, ever since I received that money, I went on a like I said, a personal journey. So a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
Amazingly, I didn't do that much when I was working in my W-2 because I had this, for some reason, this belief that I was just going to get all the education I needed out of that W-2.
Mm.
So, I mean, I'm just compounding mistake upon mistake at this point
Yeah.
of like what a W-2 was really offering me.
Yeah.
Um, so, so my wife and I have made a number of poor decisions around real estate. And
If
this
you
is,
haven't made mistakes in real estate, have you even really invested? I mean, honestly.
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because when you're buying houses, you're like, oh, well, this will appreciate. I'll pay it off in 30 years. No, you won't.
Yeah.
You'll refinance it. You'll, whatever.
Yep.
You don't. And the other thing that I try and help younger generations understand more than anything, when it's your personal home, it's not an investment
Right.
because you can't make business decisions about an emotional attachment that you have to something. I
Right.
mean, I can just tell you a couple years ago when the market was in great shape and a neighbor of ours sold, way overvalued for their home. I'm like, dude, we should get out. And my wife is like, no, I love it here.
Yeah.
But if it's an investment property, there's not the same emotional attachment. So
Right.
don't think that, it took that conversation for my wife and I to really understand that people who do well on their homes, they're where they live, their
Hmm.
homestead,
Hmm.
do it as a product of luck more so than the product of that's a reasonable expectation,
Right.
for folks, because people who do it have either had the opportunity to take advantage of a market condition, um, just out of good fortune, or they've set themselves up where they're ready to do that and can disassociate themselves with the emotional attachment.
Yeah.
So big lesson there. So, but plenty of other lessons in the other properties that we bought.
Yeah.
Um, we'll still hold on to them. We'll hold on them for the long term, but we're still working through, some issues. And we do a fantastic job of seeming to buy when the market is at its height and then suffering through
A
the
little
low
downturn.
periods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which, it's not hard to remind yourself of that every month when you're paying the mortgage on
Mm.
things. But so long story short, one of the things that I've come to the realization that I wanted to do, and a lot of this has been through Owners Club and a lot of the teachings that Pace does, which I absolutely love him for, his his advice on um, really on men being men and fathers being fathers and good stewards in the community,
Hmm.
good business partners, all of those things resonate so much with me, and I appreciate that out of him probably more than I do the creative finance stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a wizard and wonderful with the creative finance stuff, but he's that much more important to me from just a another man that I can look at and go, I like the message that he puts out,
Right.
and I'm good with replicating that message.
Right.
So I'm always happy to steal some of his paceisms,
Yeah.
and use them for myself. So anyway, one of the things that I've come across that in terms of fulfillment is I've realized that I really want to give to a younger generation of men who should not be in the W-2 workspace and want to
Right.
be entrepreneurs, want to grow, scale, create businesses, impact not only their families, but their communities, help them with faith, family, fitness, servitude, stewardship, all of the things that make them fantastic, well-rounded men, and citizens, um, and really be the mentor that I wish I had had 25 years ago.
Mm.
Um, like I said, I wish I had had somebody that could have woken me up to tell me that, all this stuff doesn't work.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I'll share is that, you know, one of the hardest things for us to realize was we unfortunately had the passing, my wife's father passed unexpectedly a couple of years ago. Um, and while he was career Coast Guard and a career after retiring from the Coast Guard, he did all the right things, right? He
Yeah.
had a career, he had his pensions, he had his 401ks and things like that. Didn't have it at the end of the day, he really didn't have anything.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't, the math doesn't work. So
Right.
I don't care what anybody else says, the math doesn't actually work when you actually apply it into real life. I mean, sure, if you just want to go Dave Ramsey and just multiply everything out, sure. That's not real life.
Right.
So my, and it's not real, it'll work for a few, but the real way to wealth is diversification, real estate being a huge part of that,
Hmm.
the benefits that come with real estate, but also entrepreneurialism, which a lot of us here in this real estate industry are entrepreneurs at heart.
Yeah.
So, like I said, for me, fulfillment means giving back to those young men who want to either create, buy, and scale their businesses and create that generational wealth in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love so much of what you just said there. One of the things that really jumped out to me was when you're talking about, selling this business and the money hits your account and it just doesn't move the needle for you, right? And there's a common saying that money will reveal more of who you truly are. And if you have built a life that's not based solely on monetary value and money and possessions and things, and you've built a life that's a little bit greater than that, and you have a purpose of doing something and making a difference more than just money, then that doesn't matter how much comes in, it's not going to change you. You're still going to have that drive and that desire. Whereas those who maybe are solely money focused, when that comes in, that's where you see these people going out and just absolutely blowing it, right? We see all these athletes and things that get these multi-million dollar contracts, and as soon as they're done with their sport, they're broke again. And it's like you got to have that base built so that when that money comes in, you can use it to do more of what your heart says you want to do rather than just blow it on things that make no difference. So I love that, it didn't really hit you that much because you had greater things in your life and a greater purpose. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the one thing that I'm so thrilled about is I probably could have joined this guy that I told you that I work for years and years earlier.
hmm.
It would have meant that I would have been working, unbelievable hours, probably traveling a ton.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did do in my life, which I'm so happy about, is I spent um, the formative years of when my girls were growing up. I was able to be home And I was
Mm,
able to be here, and I was able to go to their games, um, be present on the sideline, be there after their games,
yeah.
um, help them study. And had I had I worked for him at a much earlier age, you and I probably wouldn't be having this conversation, right? I'd probably be somewhere, you know, on a mountain somewhere or on a beach somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't have the same relationship I have today with my daughters because I
Right.
just would not have ever been there. And who knows what may have happened with them. But my wife definitely, my wife is definitely the one who took the greatest lead in raising them. But together, that they are our greatest pride and joy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's some of my core memories are having my parents there for all of my events and stuff. I was lucky to have that as a kid, and I think your daughter's the same, right? I think it's a real testament to you and your wife to be there for them through all of that, and that's I'm sure why you have such a strong family relationship and everything that that you guys have. So, no doubt, just from personal experience, they'll remember that for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
I carry those memories with me, and I'm sure they will as well.
Yeah. Well, a quick fun story. My in-laws, they're just beautiful people. Sharon's dad has passed now, but um, when my daughter was at Colorado Mesa, we live in Virginia. She was at Colorado Mesa in Grand Junction, Colorado, a
Hmm.
few hours from where you are.
Yeah.
Um, my in-laws had 16 grandchildren. My girls were the two youngest, and they would drive to Colorado Mesa to watch her games.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. What a great support system. I love that.
Yeah.
How far of a drive was it for them? Where were they located?
Here,
Oh, gee.
it's
Oh,
1,900 miles. They would drive out.
wow.
And then when her team would go on spring break, they would drive to Florida for spring break, drive to Ohio for spring break. One time they drove out and then swung by their son who was living in Houston at the time.
Yeah.
That's just
Swung by.
right. So,
Amazing.
but yeah, it just goes to the point of there's so much more than the dollar that we think about. So my advice is just, build something,
Yeah.
but build it with purpose, intent about what you're doing for your family, what you're doing in the community, being available. Like for me, helping a young man build a business is not about working harder. It's about how do you make your business work in your absence so that you don't have to work harder? It
Right.
can continue to operate. You have, as a business owner, you have responsibilities to have employees there that are also making a wage, are also making a salary
Yep.
that can run that business. You're training them, so you don't have to be uh, so tied to the business that you're missing out on the most important pieces of life, which is the family aspect, your
Right.
own health aspect, the fitness aspect, the wellness portion of life. Reading a great book right now, Die with Zero, and
Mm.
there's so much in there about, it doesn't make any sense to have a ton of money when you're 75. You're not going to want to do anything, let alone physically able to.
Right.
So, not gonna be able to ski when you're seven. Well, some people do, but right, like the reality of doing things when you finally have money, it's not the reality. So build a life that you can do the things and you can enjoy the family while you're young enough to do it.
It's interesting. I was actually having that exact conversation with somebody the other day. In this country, especially, we have this idea of work, 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 work until you retire and just put all your time into work. And I've noticed as I go, as I travel around the country and like in Utah, we have a whole bunch of national parks. And so I'll go to the
Mhm.
national parks and you see all these people from around the world and they are in their 20s and 30s and they are traveling and enjoying it. And I'm talking to them about where they've been and they've been all over the world experiencing all these places. The UK, I was working with some medical providers on a mission trip that I was on, and they had taken like 2 years off to just go travel the world and provide help, provide medical care around the world just to experience different cultures. And I thought, we waste a lot of our prime years not getting out there and experiencing things, waiting for retirement. And by the time we get there, we're too beat up and too worn down to actually enjoy our retirement. And we kind
Yeah.
of miss out on so much of the beauty of life by waiting until the end to enjoy it.
Yeah. There's so much truth to that. And so Die with Zero is a really good book that reaffirms exactly what you're seeing when you go out there, just how and it reaffirms how important it is because the reality is the more time you don't work and the more time you spend present in your life, whether that's going and visiting parks, whether that's traveling, spending time with your kids, those experiences, from my own personal experience, are the things that make you more well-rounded and more
Yeah.
prepared to be able to handle the things that come up in your business.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So
So.
where did the desire come from for you to help young men establish these businesses? Is it because of what you went through as a young man, or where did that kind of initiate?
So two places. One, when I started questioning the conventional wisdom, right? It just, like I said, it just the math wasn't mathing, right? It wasn't things weren't adding up for me.
Yeah.
It was very, very unfulfilling. I had
Hmm.
always wished, I had a choice when I was in college to get a summer job at EDS,
Hmm.
which was in my major, or go to work for a guy that was building decks.
Hmm.
To this day, I don't regret things in my life, but to this day, had I gone and built decks, would have been a totally different path, but a path of, such creativity, ingenuity, definitely a lot of hustle. But
Hmm.
I know the business that would have started a business entrepreneurial lifestyle in trades that just would have exploded by the time of, I am where I am now.
Yeah.
So 30 years later. So when I started questioning some of those things, that's where it started. And then as I started questioning it, started thinking about, oh, I wish I had done that.
Hmm.
I just thought about when I was late 20s, early 30s, the advice I got from everybody around me that was 25 years older than me was always, get your W-2, put money in your 401k, you got to buy a house. Yeah, no, I shouldn't. Like all those things I was questioning and I was like, man, I should have had somebody that I wish I said, well, let me back up. I wish I would have had somebody
Yeah.
that would have questioned that conventional thinking with me
Gotcha.
and helped to show me that there's another way, that there's another path.
Hmm.
Uh, I will tell you this. I'm fortunate to live in a very, very nice community. I live, I play a good amount of golf. The people that I live around and the people that I play golf with, there are only a couple of us that have W-2s.
Yeah.
The rest of them are all business owners.
Yeah.
And it's everything from plumbers to general contractors to roofers to painters to financial advisors to, software development companies. Like it's all over the spectrum. They're all just great guys,
Yep.
but they're all entrepreneurs.
Right. They're on the golf course while the employees are back at work putting in the hours.
There, there is an element of that, no doubt. There
Well,
is an element
that's the
there.
benefit of being the entrepreneur, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it comes with other challenges and issues, but that is the benefit of being the business owner.
yeah, yeah. And so what's crazy is they all work really hard.
Yeah.
Like I know one guy that plays golf probably three weekdays a week and then once on the weekends.
Hmm.
And you just ask him, how are you out here every day? He's like, well, I'm in my office at 3:30 every morning.
Yeah.
And I get all my crews started. And then by the time, I finish up any morning meetings at 11, I'm here
Mhm.
for the rest of the day and they're off and working, but I'm back in there at 3:30 the next morning.
Right.
So, everybody has their own stories, but yeah, but they're working according to what works for them versus
Yeah.
what works for an employer.
Well, when you're the boss, you get to decide when, and on what you work, right? You don't have somebody else making your hours, so you can set them to where you can enjoy your life and enjoy the things that, refresh you and allow you to work those heavy hours that an entrepreneur has to work. So,
Yeah. And I'm glad you said refresh because that's one of the things that also want to um, help young men with is that working all the time is not healthy. It's also
right,
not conducive to great work.
right.
So being able to take breaks from the work, constructive breaks, understanding what downtime means, what, creative outlets look like. And quite frankly, just men also need to spend time talking to other men and um, just learning from each other. And
Hmm.
too many times we just get siloed into wake up, go to the office, come home, sit in traffic, come home, get up and do it again the next day. And then a weekend rolls around and, you can get caught up doing chores and kids games and then before you know it, you've got 20 years that just went by.
Yeah.
And that is coming directly from experience.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, when I think back about, all the shows that I'd watch as a kid growing up, Flintstones, any comedies, anything, the husband in the show, whoever it was always going to the Elks Club or, some sort of club lodge. They were going bowling, they were hanging out with this group of men, and it didn't really hit me until you were just talking about that yeah, that was a much more common thing back, oh shoot, at this point, 50, 60, 70 years ago, when they
mhm.
had these groups and these clubs for men. And we don't have that as much anymore. And it's a lot of isolation and it's a lot of head down grind, go to work. And we miss a lot of that social aspect. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's something that I also, hope to pass on the importance of that. And my true dream is that, if I have the opportunity to work with dozens of young men in the capacity, like I said, then, part of that is to bring them together and learn from each other, just ex help each other experience life a little bit to a greater degree, share stories, share experiences. If it's even to like you and I started before we started this, talking a little bit about skiing and kind of just building those relationships where you can share ideas, share knowledge, share things that may inspire each other to try different things. I don't
Yeah.
care if it's out shooting skeet, playing golf, bowling, whatever. Just it's important to get out and just be social like that with other men who have similar interests and pursuits.
Right. Yeah. So if a young man is, kind of getting to that phase where they're starting to think about their career and things like that, and they're wondering, is college the path for me? Is entrepreneurship the path for me? What advice do you have? Maybe questions that they could ask themselves to kind of help them determine, which direction would be most beneficial? Because there are certainly those who thrive going to college and getting that standard degree and going that path. But how would you recommend somebody go about determining that for themselves?
So that is a great question. And it's what I love about the question is asking, is college right for me? For young men, I don't necessarily think the same for young women, even though I only had daughters and I've never had a son.
Hmm.
I have a son now, son-in-law, and I have another one coming up.
Hmm.
Um, if a young man is asking the question of whether or not is college right for me, college is not right for them, just flat out.
Gotcha.
If a young man knows what he wants to do and knows that that requires a college degree, and more importantly, it requires an advanced degree,
Hmm.
then at the time they're asking the question, college is not right for them. I will always advise after what I've both been through and then also what I've seen. Um, I'm not at a point where I believe college is the right answer, especially the de facto answer
Hmm.
for young men.
Hmm.
I think young men would be so much better served um, working, figuring out kind of who they are, not necessarily what they want to do, because it's okay to not know what you want to do,
Sure.
but just who you are, um, learning how money works and industries work and business works first before going out and spending the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a college education.
Yeah.
Um, I just, I am no longer convinced that that's the right path. And I think that quite frankly, I think that this country would be in much better hands if more young men would just go either into the service and start there or go into business and not necessarily start a business, but at least go work
Hmm.
and learn the value of a dollar first. Uh,
Hmm.
and then also learn the value of earning a dollar, which then translates into the value of spending a dollar.
Hmm.
Uh, and when you start to understand those and you start to understand how to leverage those, then you figure out, okay, is college worth it for me? I mentor a young man, and he was telling me this is about a year and a half ago. He was telling me, well, I'm getting ready to start my master's program. And I said, that's great. Why? He's like, well, I think I need a master's. I said, for, why? And this at the time, this is somebody I knew through IT. And,
Hmm.
so I just questioned him, and may sound off-putting, but I just questioned him and I said, well, do you want, a piece of paper on your wall, or are you actually trying to learn something?
Right.
He's like, well, I don't know. I just feel like I need to have it. So that, I don't see anything in your line of work or your industry that tells me that an MBA is going to help you. If you want to get into a C-suite at a large corporation, probably,
Hmm.
but but is that really where you want to go? And he's like, no, I feel like, like this is the next step.
Yeah.
I said, well, do me a favor. Don't just consider this. Consider not starting your master's program this next semester. Instead, go to what, is affectionately called YouTube University. Just go find all the classes that you would have taken and see whether or not you can take them through YouTube. And I
Hmm.
said, but here's going to be the difference. One, you're not going to be out any money aside from maybe a YouTube subscription.
Yep.
Two, if you come across a professor that you don't like teaching that class, you can drop it and go find another professor.
Yeah.
But in your master's program, you don't get to do that. You pay someone to tell you what you should think, and the way that they tell you, you don't get a choice.
Mm.
So with YouTube University, you at least get a choice. So now do that for a semester and tell me how much more educated you think you are than had you gone through a traditional program.
Yeah.
There's a place for traditional programs. I just don't think they're the de facto place for everyone. Um, and especially undergraduate, that should just be a natural step coming out of high school
Sure.
for young men. Young women are different. There's a whole bunch of things in there that are biologically that are different, so that may be a different path. Although I still believe that even taking it a break and going to work for young women wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either.
Mm.
Um, you know, I have a daughter that's in veterinary school now, so she wanted to become a veterinarian. She
Yep.
had to go to college to get a undergraduate degree that would support a veterinarian degree. If
Yep.
that's your path, then yes, go to college. That's important for you to do, chase that dream.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you're questioning right now, then the immediate answer is no.
Yeah.
Um, but beyond that, if you're past your college years and you're past maybe coming out of the military and you've worked for a number of years in trade, or you're finding yourself unfulfilled in your W-2 after having gotten your degree and you're ready to start that business, then it's time. That itch does not ever go away. And there's people out there that are willing to help and help that next generation. And if you start asking the questions, you'll find the mentor that you're looking for that'll help you on that journey.
What is the next step? What are those questions? Somebody knows they want to start a business, they want to start an entrepreneurial journey. Where do they start? After the desire is already
Mhm.
there, what's the next step? What questions should they be asking? How do they know if a mentor is really going to help them or take advantage of them? Because there's a lot of gurus out there that are pitching this, this garbage, just trying to take advantage of people that want to get started. How would you recommend somebody get started on that path?
So I think most of them are going to be close to home. So relationships that you probably already have, folks that are genuinely interested in your success.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it starts with just asking those questions close to home. So other either parents of friends that you have, friends of your own parents, if you have access to them, people that you're already working with or working for. So
Hmm.
many companies are just closing down their businesses. I was talking to Christy Thompson, and she's done a wonderful job, and she just acquired a business. Not that she fits into this demographic, but the company that she recently acquired with her group,
Hmm.
this is an HVAC company that had 100 employees, and they were just going to close their doors,
Yeah.
like literally just close their doors. And so the point is that those opportunities are out there. So if you're already working for someone, having the conversation about what's your long-term objective with this company,
Hmm.
what are you hoping to do with it? And start to find out if there's ways that you can insert yourself into those uh into the realm of possibility for that.
Yeah.
Um, and there, it may not be, it may be that you have to go outside of that, but don't be afraid of the conversation. I think what I always felt like was that I was afraid to have the conversation. Like it was almost like when you were a kid and you weren't allowed in the room when the adults were talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're allowed in the room. Ask the question. No, nothing makes someone my age who has the experience that I have more excited than somebody who actually shows an interest and wants to try and improve themselves, wants to try and start their own business. All my friends who have businesses, I they would do nothing but jump in and try and help,
Yeah.
and try and direct you to the right resources and spend hours upon hours answering questions, doing whatever. I mean, everybody that I know, and I'm not in a unique community of just, you know, go-givers. This is just the way entrepreneurs work. They want
Right.
others to be successful too.
I think it's interesting. I think sometimes we get this idea of a mentor being, a specific title or something. I have to find a mentor. Will you be my mentor? And really, all it is going out and finding the guy that's doing the thing you want to do. And like you said, asking questions and then listening to the advice that comes back. And it doesn't have to be part of a program. It doesn't have to be part of a mentorship. You don't have to,
Right.
join a club or a group to get a mentor. It's just like you said, going out with the people that are doing the things around you and asking those questions and taking in that knowledge. I think that's a great point that you made right there.
Thank you. So the interesting thing about the way that I want to go about this is I actually want to co-own the business with these young men.
Hmm.
Um, because as soon as I do that, well, now I have an interest in you being successful, right? I've got a
Yep.
tremendous interest.
Yep.
But but what I want to do is I want to create the exit strategy. So how do I get out so that you have everything,
Right.
right? So now I'm doubly interested. You're doubly interested, right? You want me, you want to be able to come up to speed and be able to run the business on your own. The skills that I bring are the infrastructure, the access to money, the relationships, things like that. The
Hmm.
skills that you bring are maybe the trade, the desire, the longevity in it, those
Hmm.
kinds of things. And like I said, for me, my interest and my fulfillment is I want to see you climb that ladder. I learned later in my career that I got more out of pulling somebody up the ladder, than ever trying to climb past somebody else on the ladder.
Yeah.
So, I've just found that getting into there's some rooms that I just didn't want to get into because I enjoyed the thrill of helping somebody else achieve their true potential than trying to keep them smothered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love that abundance mindset. We can all go up the ladder together. You don't have to push
yeah,
people down just to keep yourself up. So
yeah,
there's room at the
yeah,
top for everybody. But, and that's the great thing about partnering with you, I think, is, with what you're doing with Pinnacle now, the whole thing is business coaching and helping people not only with their mindset, but develop teams and develop the skills and everything necessary to run and operate successful businesses.
yeah, absolutely. So Pinnacle is uh, we are an organization that, the full title is Pinnacle Business Guides. It's an organization that has a business operating system framework that we're able to leverage to help companies scale, grow, overcome chaos in their operations, basically work through all of the issues that are preventing companies from growing and truly realizing the success that they think is at their fingertips.
Yeah.
So I, having done so much in setting strategic direction, helping programs and systems reach their full potential throughout my career, I just realized that this was a somewhat of a calling that I had and I related to very much because I do I am a pretty structured person, pretty disciplined person. And so following systems and processes to help me get to goals and understanding when you put that kind of work in, what the result is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I always use the term, what I help people do is get themselves out of their day-to-day chores and up to a strategic level where they're realizing their full potential.
Yeah.
Um, and so the framework that Pinnacle brings is not unlike if you've ever heard of EOS.
Hmm.
It's not unlike EOS. It just takes it to a much higher degree. And I basically what I like to say is I personalize operating systems for business owners.
Yeah.
So I get in, I really understand where you're going, what your strategic objectives are. And then the other thing that I'm going to do when I talk to you is I'm going to hold you accountable.
Hmm.
The one thing that probably limited my career in big companies and in my W-2 is unfortunately I show up in rooms and I speak my mind.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid to tell you what I'm really thinking.
Yeah.
So if I think you're off, I'm going to tell you that I think you're off.
Yeah.
That did not promote a lot of career growth in the later portion of my career.
Sure.
Um, but it also told me that this is exactly the type of thing that I should be doing because business owners often have too many people telling them what they think the business owner wants to hear
Yeah.
versus what they should be hearing.
Yeah.
Um, a
Yes, men
perfect
don't help
example.
a business grow.
Yeah. So a perfect example of that is I had a potential client that I was talking to just a week ago that will possibly go into business or help out here as a Pinnacle guide.
Uh-huh.
He was giving me his situation and he said, you know, what do you think? And I said, I think you have a culture problem. I think you're doing some things that are adversely impacting you in the direction you want to go. And I think we need to get that fixed. And he's like, wait, he goes, I never thought that I would, that I would have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you definitely you've created some problems. And so, you'd think that here I am in a potential client meeting trying to sell my service to someone that you know, I'd be complimenting them on the great things that they've done in their business. And
Right.
unfortunately, if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the honest answer, which in this case was he's got some serious problems that he needs to work through. And
Yeah.
but I'm confident that with the tools that I have and with my experience, we can get through them very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I know the path out of that already.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's really what people need, whether they know it or not. Sometimes they need to have that, contradicting opinion, because otherwise you just get caught in an echo chamber and then you lose sight of good ideas and growth and progress because everybody's just agreeing with you. And I love the systems and the processes. That's often the biggest issue for entrepreneurs, right? You got these visionaries who have these goals and these dreams, but actually implementing it and keeping it streamlined so that they can get out of their day to day. They got into entrepreneurship to take back some of their time, and then they're running around so wild because they don't have that integrator brain that focuses on how to make things systematized and processed so that they can focus on what they do best. And that's where, having somebody like you to come in and point these things out to them and help them get that structure in place can really step up the business that they're doing.
Yeah, it's so true. The thing that I find most interesting is the single behavior that most companies don't do, that if they did it would change them tremendously, is just every 90 days, stop, take your pulse, figure out where it is that you're trying to go,
Mhm.
and then check on whether or not you're headed in that direction. And if it changes every 90 days slightly, like if your strategic goals change every 90 days and it shouldn't be major changes, just slight changes,
Right.
that's fine. Like that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
But if you're not stopping, then all you're doing is you're just answering whatever emails at the top of your inbox, whatever customer is frustrated, right? And any growth that you're getting is usually a product of good fortune in the marketplace and some things that are going well.
Yeah.
Um, But if you're not stopping to focus on the business, and we talk about this all the time, and it should be a deliberate every 90-day activity. Usually that's the behavior that kicks all of this off. Then you're just you're just in a constant survival mode. So yeah, so you hit the nail on the head, and it's what I do is I bring that discipline to companies that don't already have it. And
Mhm.
then I ask all the uncomfortable questions in those meetings, right?
Yeah.
When we stop for 90 days, did we do things well? Do we have any problems? And then what did we do well? So what do we need to keep doing?
Right.
Um, but what do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start saying no to? Are all of our people the right people? Do
Yeah.
we have all of our playbooks, right? Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. He's huge on playbooks in that.
Hmm.
So all of this leads to tremendous improvements in business valuation. If you've ever looked at buying a business, you're going to look at their systems and processes.
Yep.
You can have two companies doing the same amount of revenue, same amount of profit. The company that's systems and processes are more mature are always going to value out much higher.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. So,
Yeah.
obviously, if a young man is partnering with you on a business, they get all this knowledge packaged in with your partnership.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
if a business owner or somebody wanted to work with you, how would they go about doing that?
Um, Best just reach out to me directly. I only take on a handful of clients. The most important thing for me um, is not just a mass distribution of knowledge, experience, anything like that. Like I really want to get in and work with you. And Dustin, you know this as just from your interaction with me.
Yeah.
I'm interested in a few close, deep relationships where I can really help you and I really become uh, emotionally invested in your company as well and the things that you're doing.
Mhm.
And not just it's not just hey, great, we'll talk again in 90 days, right? I care. I sometimes that's another problem of mine. I care too much. I've got a buddy who, he's got a company, and every once in a while we'll just sit down and go over some of the things that he's facing, and I'll work with him on those things. And then, I'll come back to him 2 weeks later and I'll be like, Steve, I was thinking about this. You know, what about if we did this? He's like, man, I've already moved on from that. Why you? And I'm like, I haven't moved on. I still care. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to help you fix this, right? So,
Yeah.
I think about it incessantly. So I have a few openings for just a few companies. If you wouldn't mind sharing my contact information in the show notes,
Yep.
folks can reach out to me directly. Like I said, I'm very selective. I had somebody approach me and they didn't meet the criteria that I'm looking for, which is I want somebody who's interested in really growing, really, improving what they're doing. Not somebody who just thinks they need a mentor for a mentor's sake. So
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
work through that. But again, I am selective about who I'll take on because I want to see the growth.
Mhm.
I will become attached. I will become invested.
Yep.
And I want to see that effort, going into the company, on the owner's part as well. And their leadership team.
Got to be the right fit across the board. Yeah. For both sides.
Absolutely.
Both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
We'll
So
definitely share the contact information in the show notes. So if you're a business or if you're a young man that wants to start a business and is interested in partnering and experiencing this growth and knowledge that Elliot has, you can find the contact information for him in the show notes. So, Elliot, it's been great talking with you. I appreciate you being here today, man.
Dustin, it's always a joy to talk with you. I so appreciate what you're doing with this. Like I said, from just the title itself is so perfect because that's what we're all just trying to push it forward, but we
Yeah.
also have to be okay with making some of those mistakes, learning from them, putting them into the right context, and then pushing that out.
Yeah.
Next time we talk, let's talk more about the difference between learning from failures and learning from successes.
Yeah.
As you and I talked about it just briefly before this, sometimes we don't spend enough time also learning from our successes, giving gratitude where gratitude deserves its proper recognition, and also celebrating those wins and those victories. They're just as important as thinking about some of the failures that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to do a follow-up. So, but until
Yeah.
next time, guys, get out there, take some action. It may be messy, it may not look great, but as long as you're flailing, you're still moving forward. We'll catch you on the next one.